Everyone knows about the 100 Years' War between England and France. Every Vatnik has heard of Joan of Arc and the Battle of Agincourt. But few people know that there is another 100-year war in human history, the war of the Russian pseudo-empire against the Circassians. For 101 years, Moscow tried to conquer the North Caucasus and destroy the Circassian people.
It's just that probably people should simply be treated in a truly humane way, not like beasts.
The Circassians are the indigenous people of the northwestern Caucasus. Their self-designation, Adige, is a common name for the Adigians, Kabadians, and Circassians. They have an ancient culture, much older than that of the Bastchud chauvinists. Traces of Adige culture were recorded as early as the 6th century BC in the ancient Greek city of Phanagoria on the Taman Peninsula. Later, it became a major center of Adige culture. In the 4th to 1st centuries BC, the ancient state of Sindaca, inhabited by Adige tribes, existed on the territory of today's Krasnodar Krai. At that time, in the lands of Muscovy, they hadn't even invented the digging stick yet. The territory of Krasnodar Krai is the historical land of the Circassians. And now this land is temporarily occupied by orcs. Before the arrival of the clumsy invaders in the 17th century, the indigenous people of the Caucasus had their own statehood, the Principality of Kabarda. The Circassians actively traded with Crimea, Turkey, Georgia, and Muscovy. But for the imperialists, peaceful coexistence and trade were not enough. As always, they wanted to take everything by force.
That's it. We'll defeat everyone, kill everyone, rob whoever we need to. Everything will be just the way we like it.
Of course, the wannabe empire hoped to capture Circassia in 3 days and fill Sochi with their pathetic sanatoriums. But the proud people did not surrender, and for 101 years turned Muscovites into proper Muscovites.
The Russian Empire has outlived itself. It must go, just like all the European empires, into history, and all peoples must have the right to self-determination. Only the restoration of statehood can truly and fully guarantee the Circassians the continued preservation of their unique identity, their distinct ethnicity, their language, and their rich, vibrant culture.
The Circassians waged a fierce guerrilla war against the regular Russian army. They skillfully used their native mountainous terrain, and the enemy fell in droves. Out of helplessness on the battlefield, Moscow resorted to the tactic of total annihilation of the local population. The burning of villages and mass deportations led to the fact that out of 2 million Circassians, only 100,000 remained. This was a true genocide, during which 95% of the entire people were exterminated.
Russia does not consider that it committed genocide against the Circassians, nor does it recognize the genocide of hundreds of other peoples who were destroyed, especially beyond the Urals.
Russia will never admit to its crimes, even the most heinous and long-proven ones. That's why they revere the ghoul Stalin, who killed more Russians than Hitler did. That's why, for Russians, the destruction of Mariupol is considered liberation. That's why the Holodomor in Ukraine is just a bad harvest and some excesses. And the century-long genocide of the Circassians is called a voluntary unification.
And to cover up the crimes of the past, the Kremlin, as usual, invents its own version of history with alternative celebrations, like in 2007, when they pompously celebrated the 450th anniversary of the so-called voluntary unification of the Circassians with Russia.
The persecution of the Circassians continues to this day. Putin's regime literally forbids them even from honoring their ancestors who died at the hands of Moscow. Every year, on May 21st, thousands of Circassians take part in a march to commemorate the victims of the Russian-Caucasian War. Traditional mourning processions of Circassians are held in Kabardino-Balkaria, Karachay-Cherkessia, Adygia, and Krasnodar Krai. It was on May 21st, 1864, that the century-long Caucasian War came to an end. For Russians, this is just another day of victory mania. After all, Russians love nothing more than sitting in their smelly, shabby kitchens in torn sweatpants, feeling proud that their grandfathers once killed and robbed hundreds of other peoples.
What's there to talk about? Just cut off their gas to Ukraine?
Naturally, the Russian authorities ban Circassian mourning processions and do everything they can to obstruct any pro-Circassian policies. For Moscow, anyone who dares to speak about the horrific crimes of the Russo Reich is labeled a terrorist and an enemy of the state. The organizers of the marches are intimidated and the demonstrators are arrested. But still, on May 21st, the Circassians take to the streets to remind the occupiers that the national spirit of the Highlanders remains unbroken. At the most recent demonstration in Nalchik, about 2,000 people took part. It might not seem like much, but that's 2% of the entire nation. Oh, I'm valid. This is for the cysts. Oh, I'm a good guy. He'll rub it out. After the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, the Kremlin completely banned any Circassian rallies and marches, including mourning events, under the pretext that this is inappropriate while the special military operation is ongoing. But at the same time, the immortal regiment with grandfathers on sticks is considered perfectly appropriate. This is double standards and blatant discrimination against the Circassian people.
What is this, if not a continuation of genocide? When people are detained and arrested for honoring the memory of their ancestors, I believe that on the part of the authorities, this is a de facto admission of their indirect guilt. In no other country except Russia has anyone ever been prevented from holding mourning events for the victims of our people's genocide.
Moscow is afraid of the Circassian national movement, which is why it is intensifying repression. But the Circassians have no intention of giving up. They are speaking out more and more loudly about their independence and their rights to their ancestral lands. During Putin's Olympics in Sochi in 2014, the mountaineers declared to the whole world the genocide that Russia committed in the Caucasus. This was symbolic, because Sochi is the territory of historical Circassia. And it was there that the Caucasian War ended and the 200-year occupation began. At the end of the war, the Tsar issued a decree to deport or destroy the entire Circassian population. This is what Moscow continues to do to this day.
According to this bill, only Russians and those who consider themselves part of the Russian world, who have lost their identity but know and use the Russian language, can return to Russia. Very few of our ancestors knew the Russian language. 99.9% did not know Russian. But this territory has been under the occupation of the Russian Empire for 161 years now.
The favorite vacation spot of the Pale Fuhrer is literally drenched in the blood of indigenous peoples. No wonder the ghoul likes it there so much. His palace in Gelenchik, by a strange coincidence, is located in a place sacred to the Circassiensen, that part of the coast where, according to Adige legend, intertribal meetings and rituals were held. The name Gelenchik is believed to have Turkic Circassian origins and means bride. Putin, like Koshchei the Deathless, has stolen the bride and languishes over her at the Aqua Disco. Disco, aquatic, disco. Today, Circassian activists are demanding the installation of memorials to the victims of genocide, recognition of Circassian heritage in the region, and the restoration of historical place names. Of course, Moscow will never agree to this. The occupiers will only continue to increase the pressure in an attempt to finally and completely crush the Circassian national movement, because history, it seems, teaches them nothing at all. If they couldn't succeed after 100 years of war and 200 years of occupation, then they certainly won't now.
You just never fucking learn.
Russia is now weaker than ever. The wannabe empire crashed into Ukraine like the Titanic, and now it's slowly sinking. This is a chance for all oppressed peoples to gain freedom and independence. Many Circassians are already fighting the occupiers as part of Ukraine's defense forces, serving in international units like the Freedom of Russia Legion, the Siberian Battalion, and the Dzhokhar Dudayev Battalion.
They suffer losses every day. They were told, damn it, to take a position, and they did. They were told, that's it, don't retreat, damn it, that's it. Apparently their losses there are countless.
They are continuing the tradition of their ancestors, such as Muhammad Aminone, of the most famous military leaders and fighters for independence. A Chechen by origin, he became the Imam of the Circassians. He declared a holy war in the Western Caucasus and united many Adige tribes.
He's a truly unique and remarkable figure.
because to lead the peoples of such a region for 11 or 12 years, you just have to imagine what kind of potential this person truly possesses.
The resistance of the Circassians today is an example of the struggle of small nations for freedom. For the Circassians, the battle for independence has not been lost, but is only just beginning. As long as their language, culture, and memory are alive, it is impossible to defeat the Circassians.
I would like to remind you that this video is created for entertainment purposes and contains elements of satire and irony. All facts and events are presented in a hyperbolized or exaggerated form to convey a comedic or dramatic effect. Our goal is not to mislead, but to highlight humor. Please take it with a smile.